Hi guys, and welcome to this quick tutorial on semicolons and colons, how and when to use them. Now you've probably heard your English teachers go on and on endlessly about using a semicolon in your writing, how it adds sophistication and how it improves the quality of your writing, and they'll bandy around a lot of the time that this is the golden punctuation mark in terms of getting a grade C. Now that's all well and good, but it's being able to use that. So there are a number of uses for a semicolon, but ultimately the most common is actually to link together two different sentences. It creates a much closer link between that than using full stops. Most of the time, what it's basically doing is replacing a connecting word such as and. With that in mind, what you've got to be careful about is that both sentences are actually independent. And by that I mean that they can exist by themselves, they make full sense by themselves. If one part isn't independent, and it's dependent therefore, you should actually use a comma in that instance. So if you look at that example on the screen, while I did my homework, I ate cake. Now that needs a comma because while I did my homework isn't independent. It doesn't make sense by itself. Okay, so just to kind of show an example then. It's a really famous quote on the screen. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It's from Charles Dickens. Now, that could have been written in a number of ways. It could have been used with a semicolon. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It could have been done as two separate sentences. It was the best of times, full stop, it was the worst of times. Or Dickens could have linked it with the connective and. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. So really it's a case of a semicolon is basically a longer pause, but not quite as long as a full stop. And it does add sophistication to your writing. Anyone who's marking your work can see that you can use a wide range of punctuation. Okay, moving on to colons. Basically, you're only going to really use a colon if you're going to introduce a list. So, example there, I went to the shops and bought chocolate, apples, milk and bread. And that's most of the time that you'll use a colon. Okay, have a look at these examples on the screen, and consider where you would put semicolons in those examples. I will let you pause the video now whilst you have a read through. Okay, here would be the examples with the correct punctuation in. Okay, best of luck using semicolons and colons.